that is fine as well. Up to you, or you can just go in that way. All right, thank you everyone for coming. It's just about 9 o'clock, so I think we'll get started if that's okay. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Katherine Goyette. I am an educational technology and integrated studies consultant from Central California. All right. Some Californians in the room. I am not from the part of California where there is a beach right outside my door, or where there's a big city. I'm kind of in between San Francisco and LA, inland, a lot like Texas, to be honest, very rural. So that's kind of where I'm at. And so for me, I worked in some low-income areas where our students did not have access to the resources to be able to go sometimes even more than 100 miles outside of their where they live, outside of the school. And so I really have a passion for providing opportunities for these students to make connections, because using technology, because they can't do it. They don't have those resources to be able to do that on their own. I had students didn't even own a car, the families didn't even own a car. And so that's why I'm really passionate about this. So, all right, here's all my contact information. Feel free to tweet me or email me. I'll be honest. I am more likely to respond quickly via Twitter than email, just to let you know. But definitely feel free to contact me if you would like. All right, so these are the things that we're going to talk about today. All eyes on me. Any Tupac fans in here?
Yeah.
Get the reference? All right, good. The world is watching. We're going to talk about our students' world, the power of leveraging an authentic audience, flipping the model and putting students in charge, how audience matters, changing the role of it so that teachers are setting the stage and are not the ones on the stage, and then students as global collaborators. So we are going to talk about making those global connections for students. I'm going to give you some resources to do that, but we want students to actually have something to collaborate about. We don't want them just doing mystery hangouts if they're not in a geography class. We want them to actually collaborating about content. And so that means that they need to actually publish work and have something that they can discuss. So first of all, our students' world. All right, this is a video. I'm not going to show it due to time at the moment, but think about our students' world and about media. Kids have screens everywhere, right? And some teachers say it's so distracting. They're always looking at their screen, right? But what if we leverage that and we use that power, because they do always have they don't want to give up their cell phones, right? Okay, but what if we use that because they're actually communicating with each other? The reason that middle school and high schoolers are so scared when you take their cell phone away is because you just cut them off from their peers. And that's the most important thing to them. So let's leverage that, because now in today's world, we communicate using media, using devices. I don't know if anyone's seen this or experienced something like this. This teacher is not living in the student's world, right? Your students are already using media to connect. They're already Snapchatting, using Twitter. They don't use Facebook. That's what old people like us do, right? Okay. George Couros, who wrote Innovators Mindset. Anybody read George Couros' book? Amazing. Definitely recommend it. Talks about today's classroom and talks about how today's learners need to be connected. You'll see the logo there for Google Hangouts, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But bringing in experts into your class using social media and video conferencing, that's something that we can now do with technology. We want to empower kids. We want kids to be able to not only have a social network, but to use it for professional purposes. We don't want them to be, their Harvard acceptance is rescinded, right? Because they put some obscene memes on social media, which happened just recently, just a couple weeks ago. Okay, so first, before, we are going to talk about connections, and it's so important that we have our kids connecting and we build that empathy. When they start to see people from other parts of the world, all of a sudden, they're so much more empathetic. And now they value diversity and they understand that there's people different than them. And when they make that connection, that makes them better citizens. They have more character. But there's a lot of bad stuff online, right? There's a lot of really, really bad stuff online. And so we have to first start with digital citizenship. Kevin Honeycutt says our kids are playing on a digital playground and no one is on recess duty. So we have to show students how to navigate in this new world. Here's a couple of resources. On the slides presentation, these pictures are clickable. You'll be able to go to Common Sense Media. You'll see here, go to Educators on the top if you haven't already. Then all over on digital citizenship, and there are a myriad of resources for you. Scope and sequence, lessons, videos already made for you. Also great for parents. How many of our parents don't realize the dangers of the social media world, right? Okay. Google just came out with something called Interland. It's a gaming type platform for teaching digital citizenship. It's new as of maybe, I think less than a month old. It's very good. It looks awesome. I haven't looked into it as much as I'd like to yet, but it's a good one too. So those are clickable, and just wanted to start with that, because if you start connecting your students out, publishing their work and going outside the world like this, then you've got to make sure that they are safe. All Eyes on Me, the power of publishing. You publish students' work, you get them out there, they're going to be more motivated, right? This is an example of some students that created a website. This was using classic sites, not the new sites. More difficult. 4th and 5th graders did it all on their own. They can do this stuff, I promise. Okay? And with that website, it links to their blogs, their slide decks, some YouTube videos that they did. Now, why am I talking about that when you came here to learn about global collaboration and Hangouts and ways to connect? Because you have to connect about something. And if I can say to my peer that I'm talking with through Hangouts, and I'll talk in a bit about how to connect with those teachers and those students, if I can say, hey, look at what I did and give me some feedback, that's more powerful. I want that global collaboration to be true collaboration. I want your students to be having Hangouts that they can actually talk about something that they're doing. They can talk about their work. And so if they publish things, then we have something, we have some context that we can go ahead and be able to speak about. These students were so excited that they were going to be creating this website and this blog. This was their idea. They said, we want to make a flyer. It was a digital flyer. This was on slides. We want to make a flyer, and we want to give it to all the teachers and all the parents and the whole school so that they can learn from us. So now our students are becoming teachers. And when they're collaborating with each other and we start connecting them through Hangouts, we want them teaching each other, because that's truly one of the highest forms of learning. If I can teach something, now I am called upon to simplify it, to synthesize my thinking, okay? And so that's why we want to make sure that we're getting kids out there publishing their work. We don't want kids just consuming content, we want them creating it, all right? We want to flip the model. We want to put students in charge. When you are using Hangouts and you are having your students speak with others, what if they were the ones creating the questions instead of you? That's a higher order thinking. If, as a student, I have to generate questions, that's going to be much better for them. So, letting students lead. This is a book snap I created. If you're interested about book snapping, look up #BookSnap on Twitter. Follow Tara Martin. So this is a book snap about empowering kids. This is from A.J. Giuliani and John Spencer's book Launch. It says, what if creativity means you abandon prepackaged meals and empower your students to be the chefs? What if your students were the ones that said, I think we should do a hangout with someone from Singapore. I think we should do a hangout with someone from Paris, wherever it happens to be. If your students are the ones coming up with those ideas, are they going to be more empowered and more engaged? Absolutely, every time. We want to empower them, not just engage them. Okay? This is an example of kids, instead of consuming content, they're creating it. They had done something in math class. They had the choice of how to demonstrate their learning. Some kids did use docs and put some pictures in there and wrote how they, a synopsis of what they had learned. Some kids screencasted, so they recorded their screen, right? So there's many ways, and then they put it on YouTube, there's many ways that they documented their learning, and now they can take that and they can say, I'm going to collaborate with another classroom from across the world. I'm a 5th grade classroom, I'm going to collaborate with a 5th grade classroom over here, and all of a sudden, I'm building connections. I'm being a global collaborator. Audience is important. Audience makes a big difference. So this is a picture on the left there of some of our students at a school I was at that were on the news. And when they found out that they were going to be on the news and that everything was going to be public, all of a sudden, they wanted to practice all the time. All the time. Do your students like reading the same thing over and over and over again? They get bored, right? But what if I knew, oh, I'm going to have to present this, and it's going to be out for the world to see. All eyes will be on me. The world will be watching. Oh my goodness, I think I will actually practice. I better know my content because someone I don't know could be watching. This is a tweet taken from when I was a summer school principal, and I was walking around classrooms, and these kids didn't know me because it was a different school than the one that the schools feeding into this was different than the one I was at. So they didn't know me, and this teacher, she was a teacher at my former school site, and she says, Katherine, man, these kids, they're coming out, they're doing this green screen thing, they literally have one sentence that they're going to be saying. And they keep wanting to practice and ask me how it sounds and all this, and I can't figure out what's the big deal. So I asked them, guys, why do you want to practice so much? What is this? They said, oh, well, Ms. Tyler, you know, Ms. Goyette, she walks through our rooms, she takes pictures, sometimes video, and we might end up on Twitter. And I'm thinking, Twitter, really? Like, how many people are actually going to look at it, right? Twitter's very quick. But because these kids knew the world was watching and that all eyes were on them, they were more motivated, right? So global collaboration's very important, and Hangouts is a great way to connect, but if we can actually have something that we can say to those students that we're collaborating with, this is my work, it's public, look at it, give me feedback, now we've changed everything. So I want this global collaboration that when you think about what we're going to talk about in a minute, I want you to think about it as not just, I'm talking to someone from another country, I'm talking to someone from another state. I'm a 2nd grader, I'm learning about suburban, urban, and rural, and I'm talking to someone, you know, maybe I live in a rural community, and I'm talking to someone from New York to learn about the differences. But what if, before I did that, I created something with pictures of where I live, and I put it on a website, or I put it on a blog, and now I can say, look what I made. That's so much better than just a conversation. Now we're actually producing things. So I wanted to start with this for some context before we get into Hangouts, so that what you do is more rich. Here's another example of students that now that they are telling stories. The quote here, I found another story, I listened to what the teacher was telling, and I knew it was a good story. They do a news report every week. And because they know they have to be a storyteller and they have to tell someone something, they're actually more likely to listen to their teacher. Do you want your kids listening to you more often? Okay? Tell them, you're going to have to teach this to someone else. You're going to have to tell the class that we're hanging out with later, you're going to have to tell them what you learned today. All of a sudden, they're going to start listening more. All right? So this means that your role changes. The teacher now is going to be setting the stage instead of being the one on the stage delivering content, right? Now your students are going to be the ones teaching each other. Good colleague of mine, good friend of mine, Corey Orlando, has a hashtag #FailForward. And as a teacher, your job is to create an environment where students are willing to take risks. They are willing to put themselves out there and have the world watch. You might say, sounds great, Katherine, but I'm not techie and I have no idea how to start a blog. I didn't even know Google had a free blog site. I don't know how to make a YouTube video. I don't know how to do all this stuff. I just came to learn about Hangouts. Some of you may be saying that. But here's the secret. You don't have to know all those things. Because there's this thing called YouTube. Has anyone heard of it? Anyone heard of YouTube? Okay, great. So there's this thing called YouTube, and you have Google certified trainers and innovators that have created screencasts that will walk you through that. So you don't have to know all these things, right? So on the tweet on the left, that's from a student whose tech coach created a screencast saying, here's how to start a blogger profile. As a teacher, now I don't have to know. I just tell the students, what if you did this? What if you said, hey guys, find the best screencast you can. Go to YouTube, find the best one, and now you get to learn with them, right? So flipping that model like that. All right, so students as global collaborators. How do we do that? What are the resources to do that? This is an image of a Google Hangout that we did. And I was always excited and interested in this, especially because, like I said, my students were from a low-income area. They didn't really leave even Central California, much less the state, very often. They didn't have those resources. And so I wanted them to be able to connect with students, industry partners from across the world, from other parts of the country and the globe. And so I was on Twitter one day, and someone said, on a Twitter chat, and a vice principal from British Columbia said, anyone want to do a Google Hangout? And I said, yes, I love it. Had never done it before, got a class going, we did this, kids were super excited, it was awesome. But not everyone's on Twitter, and that was about it. I didn't really know, how do I find these educators that I can connect with? And so it kind of died down a little bit because I didn't really know where to look. And that may be some of what you're going through right now is I want to do this, but I just don't have the resources. I don't know how it works. I don't know how to connect with those teachers. I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show this video quickly, though, because it talks about why this is important.
Can technology revolutionize education? This is what a classroom looked like 100 years ago, or more, 150 years ago. What does a classroom look like now? Okay, it's slightly different. It's a little bit more disorganized. There's clearly technology in places, right? But what does the smartboard do that the blackboard didn't? What we've learned about education is it's not about a transfer of a thing from A to B. It's not a transfer from the book to the head. It's not a transfer from the teacher to the student. It is not this sort of commodity. The way our brains work is we interact with other people. We engage with our friends, with our families. We tell stories to each other. And through those stories, through those experiences, through those activities that we conduct together, we form memories. Each one of us forms individual memories, and it is out of those memories that our personalities are formed, and our understanding of our world forms, and our skills develop. I guess what I'm saying fundamentally is education is a social process.
So, education is a social process, and if forming memories is what makes us learn, will it be more memorable if I'm making connections with people from across the globe? All right, this is an example of a blog that students did, and they were so excited when people actually read it, right? So making it that social process. So Google Plus is where you can find these places to connect and have a Google Hangout, okay? Google Hangouts is like video calls, right? And so you can have a few different educators on or students on at the same time, but how do you find those connections? How do you make those connections with those people? So this is Google Plus. If you go to your waffle on the top right up there when you're signed into Google, look for Google Plus. How many of you have a Google Plus account? Awesome. So If you don't have one, create an account, say you're an educator in your profile, because when you ask to join some of these communities, they will not accept you if they don't think you're an educator. They're trying to protect their community. We are just here for education. Communities is going to be on the left here, the arrow on the left, on the right, and then this is the community that you're going to want to join. Oh. Okay, this is Google Educator groups. If you are in, first of all, join your own Google Educator group. Then if you're learning about tornadoes in the Midwest and you want your students to connect with someone that's there, or you're learning about volcanoes and you want to connect with a class from Hawaii that's actually seen a volcano, join their Google Educator group. Ask to join, and then put out a post and ask to connect with them. Another one, this is a great community. It's called Connected Classrooms Workshop. Put that in the search bar. There are over 24,000 members. I literally get emails every single day, about the Google Classrooms Workshop from this community, people wanting to connect. They say, I'm a 5th grade teacher, any other 5th grade teacher studying this, let's connect. These are a couple other resources to connect. The Global Audience Project is a database started by Brian Costello, a Google Innovator, who you can fill out a form and look at all the other projects that are out there and connect that way. Another way to just connect with other educators that are global thinkers is EduMatch from Sarah Thomas, so check that out as well. All right, so what I'd like to do is take a couple minutes for questions, if that's okay. So, but I want to thank you first for being here and for wanting to make those connections for your students, wanting to make those global connections. Are there any questions? How about instead of questions, let me ask you this. What is something that, have you tried Google Hangouts before? Who's done a Google Hangout? Okay, all right. And who did you connect with? Yes?
Actually, I connected with my students. I was giving a presentation on Google at a conference.
I love it.
I'm a music educator.
Yes.
I was able to take the audience to my rehearsal that was going on while I was at the conference.
I love that. That's great. That's great. It really breaks down the walls of our classrooms and allows us to be with our students even if we're not physically there. Right? Okay? Anyone else? Examples of how you've connected? Yes?
I did a project with teachers on the other side of town, so we were using Hangouts to plan.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So if it is even starting with a classroom on the other side of town, that's still something. That's still something. But now you have the resources, if you wanted to connect your students globally as well. So, all right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and have a wonderful day. Definitely connect, and I look forward to seeing some of you on Twitter.